morning. My name is Jason Allen. I'm a realtor based in Palm Springs, California. I serve the Coachella Valley. Today is Monday, April 1st, 2024. And as I do every Monday, I prepare a market report focusing on one of the cities that I tend to do most of my business in. Today it's Palm Springs, and I know there's a lot more interest in Palm Springs when I do this than in other cities. So I'm going to dive and do what I normally do, and then I'm going to do something extra. Stand by. So once again, we're focused on Palm Springs, California. We're comparing this most recent month. In this case, I know we're on the 1st of April, but these numbers are done for the previous February. March's numbers haven't been crunched yet. So we're comparing February of 24 to February of 23. I start with single family houses, unit sales 23. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is up 10% compared to February of 23. Median sales price, if you can believe this, it is an eye-popping 24.8% higher. So slight pause. All the people that predicted a market crash, not in the real numbers. So if you're waiting for some magical date in the future when you're going to swoop in and get an incredible deal, I have to tell you, there are deals in every market, all the time. And unless you're employing the use of a professional realtor who has experience in a specific market, you will miss them. Do not try and time the market. Work on the timing of your life. Inventory is up 22.4%. That's great for buyers. You have more to choose from. Days on market is down 25% to 53. I'm going to come back to days on market in a little bit. Sales to list price. So these folks did not take, on average, folks that did not take a price reduction got about 96% of their original asking price. Now, this is an average. That is down 1.9% compared to February of 23. But averages mean that some people did really well and other people did poorly. Sales to original price. So these folks took at least one price reduction, maybe more. And in those cases, they still got almost 93% of their original asking price. So we're not seeing like 50% off or 30% off or 20% off. Why? Because in every single market, if a seller has to take that kind of a cut, they're not going to do it with an individual buyer. They're going to do it for the entire market because it may flesh out other buyers. Sales above list price, 28.1% on average. Now, and that is less than February of 23, but on average, 1 in 4 homes are going over the asking price. Month supply, 6.12. 6 months supply, we consider a balanced market. That gives buyers more leverage, though it certainly doesn't appear as if that's happening based on these numbers. And sellers have to make some concessions, and buyers have to make some concessions. Median sales price per square foot is actually up almost 5% compared to last year. 34% are going into contract within 30 days or selling within 30 days, 66 within 60 days, 78% within 90 days. Again, I'm going to come back to days on market in just a moment. Condos, unit sales 38. So we doubled our condo sales, and that makes sense to me. As prices on single family homes go up, people get pushed into a lesser expensive product, in this case, condos in our market. Median sales price also up significantly, almost 25%. Inventory is up, and if I come down here, so month supply is also up. So that makes sense. Inventory is now 151 units. And let me just come back to very quickly, month supply of inventory is simply taking this unit sales and dividing it into inventory to come up with what our total month supply of inventory is. And that just means if we had no additional homes come to the market, in theory, it would take us about, in this case, 4 months. For single family dwellings, we saw that it was 6 months. That's how long it would take for us to sell everything available. Days on market is up 15, almost 16% to 52 days. Sales to list price, 97.7. Sales to original list price, 96.3. Again, these folks took at least one price reduction. Sales above list price, 34. So 1 in 3 houses or 1 in 3 condos are selling above list price on average. 4 months supply of inventory. Median sales price per square foot is down. That just tells me that we're probably selling more bigger condos. 34% of the condos sold within 30 days, 63% sold within 60 days, 84% sold within 90 days. I'm going to jump over to another chart I like to use, Chicago Tile. Now, Christian and Shauna Bailey provide me with this report. I love it. It gives you this little gauge here that talks about whether you're in a seller's market or a buyer's market. I can tell you over the last 6 months, we have hovered in this slight seller's market. But, and this is the thing about this market, I'm looking at the market action index. I can go here and I can scroll down to any one of these. And generally, I look at median list price. Today, I'm going to use the market action index. And if you'll notice, their comment here, not the folks that crunch the data and provide this to Krishna and Shauna so they can then provide it to us, are saying that it's very likely we're going to see it move more and more into a seller's market. And that is especially true if interest rates do go down by the end of the year or into early 25. So, says to me, like, it's time to buy. It is. And I'm not just saying that because I want to sell your house. Crimenes, you may not call me. I mean, you might, but I'm just being practical. If you are of the mindset that you're going to wait for some bottom to fall out of the market or the economy, it's not happening. It hasn't happened. Now, I do want to show you another chart in just a moment. Quickly, I bounced over to condos for the market action index. Again, this represents the big correction to the market. And now we have seen some additional correction, but now we're starting to see things go up. So I don't really see where you're going to capitalize on a bigger correction unless, and this is where, again, market knowledge becomes really important. All right, if I go over to Google Maps and very quickly show you this map of Palm Springs, and if I back up, you can see we've got these various names for our communities. They're not all here, but I want to focus on Desert Park Estates. And why? And why is local market knowledge so important? A little while ago, some months ago, Palm Springs City Council chose to restrict vacation rentals. Last year, I had a property that was in it, and what they did is they said, we're going to count up the number of single-family dwellings in a neighborhood, and then we're going to say that no more than 20% of those can have permits to operate a Airbnb, VRBO style short-term rental. And if that's the case, if you're under 20%, you, Mr. or Miss Homeowner, can get a permit. And if we're over 20%, no more permits can be issued. Here's the additional caveat to that little consideration. And this has been true for a very long time. Permits, once I have a permit, let's say I have a rental and I want to do that, or a home and I want to do that, I don't get to sell that permit when I sell my home. It doesn't transfer to the buyer of my home. That person who buys it has to go get in line. And if permits are available, they get one. And if there aren't any permits available, they get to go to the back of the line and wait until a permit becomes available. And the only way permits become available is when I, who have one, sell my property and thereby give it back, put it back into the pool, or I, as an owner, choose not to rent my property anymore, but it's so valuable, I'm not likely to do that. So here's what happened in the run-up before these rules went into place. People were selling single-family dwellings that were not in an HOA, and they were essentially pricing them as a business. The typical ordinary way of pricing a house is what's the affordability in that neighborhood compared to comps. And if if none of the homes in the neighborhood, so take now a home that's in an HOA, and none of those homes can be done as a short-term rental because of HOA rules, we have our pricing matrix sort of built into those comps. But now we go outside of an HOA where short-term rentals are an option, and suddenly the values go up dramatically. And they go up sort of based on how much you can make from that house as a business. All right. Desert Park Estates is a good example of a neighborhood that was way over the 20% threshold. And as soon as the new rules went into effect, people began to realize, like, I can't sell my house based on the comps because the comps are for a business. So, have we seen radical price drops? Yes. I'm going to show you a few. And I'm going to show you a few in the context of, let me go over to these that I selected. And let's take this one right here. You can see where in 2022, so in COVID, it sold for $1 million. And then someone probably figured out by the time they did any sort of renovation, I'm speculating here, and they go to get a permit and that permit's not available. So they decide to sell it and they try and sell it for $899. And then that gets canceled. Then they relist it and they list it for $1,649,000. And that expires. Then they go to 650 and that gets canceled. Now they're back on it, $1,549,000. That's the sort of price corrections that end up, when it sells, will impact, let's go back over to single family dwellings, will start to impact this number or this number. Let me go back over to my list. Let me go, this is an active price reduced. So it expired at $1,149,000. Now, granted, it sold in 2012 for $289,000. Someone probably did work to it. They wanted to sell it in 23. It expired at $1,149,000, and now it's active at $799,000. That's a big price adjustment. I want to go down to some of these others, and this one, not so much of a price reduction. It canceled at $990. It closed at $640 in 22. Perhaps they did work to it. Maybe they just rode the market a bit. Canceled at $990, canceled at $979. Now it's pending at $945. We don't know where it's actually going to close. And let's go to a couple of expireds. So if we look at, let me jump to this one. It closed in 22 at $1,600,000, and then it came back on the market at $2,778,000. Like, there's no fundamental reason why that would happen. And I'm not going to click through because I don't really want to disparage any of the agents involved. But now look, it's back on the market. We've gone through a couple of price reductions and cycles, and now we're here. Now, these, to be fair, would not show up in these numbers because they're new listings. So the numbers get skewed a little bit into the conversation around NAR's recent settlement proposal. I'm not going to do a deep dive in a lot of it. I do want to point out one alteration or one impact in the marketplace that is important for consumers to understand. As we start to shake out the implication, if the settlement is adopted, we'll know sometime, hopefully in July. If it's adopted, then it would take effect in July. The first thing that consumers are going to notice is that in the database known as the MLS, the multiple listing service, you're no longer going to see the broker's compensation that the seller is offering. Now, the media suggests that the sellers are no longer going to be able to offer or will no longer offer compensation. That's untrue. It's always been negotiable. Each agent is going to work with each seller to determine what's best for them. But as that number gets removed, and then as we start to shake out the new process, the new system to actually help buyers and sellers sell property, you're going to see days on market go up. That's my prediction. You're going to see days on market go up. So as a tool from the consumer's perspective, who doesn't have an agent yet, and they're looking on one of the big portals, homes.com, realtor.com, something like that, and they start to see a home that's been on the market 30 days, 40 days, 50 days, 60 days, 100 days, and make the assumption that they can make an offer that's substantially less than what the seller is asking for, it is not going to work. It may work, and you're going to have to rely on an agent to tell you whether or not they think that's going to work. And you can try by writing that offer. But here's what else is going to change is that as real estate agents have to start figuring out, real estate agents and brokers have to figure out how they're going to make money in this new environment. An agent who you don't know, you maybe just call up and say, hey, I'd like you to write me an offer on XYZ property, may say, no problem, that costs X. In other words, no longer is it going to be no charge until I make a sale, because now we don't know if that other side is ever even going to offer anything. We may start to develop in our industry sort of an a la carte menu. And for some consumers, that's going to be fantastic. They're going to think that's awesome. For others, they're not. Because now what we might be saying for a buyer is that Mr. Buyer, Miss Buyer, Ms. Buyer, in this new environment, you have to absorb some of the risk that we have otherwise just sort of built into the process. And that risk would be like, oh, I'm going to write an offer that's going to take me 2 hours because I have to study things. My hourly rate is X, like an attorney or an accountant, anywhere from maybe 125 or maybe even $50 or $20, because now you're getting someone that's inexperienced or willing to charge significantly less for their services. Or an agent that might charge $300, $400, $500 for their services based on the knowledge they bring to the table. So, I'm not going into all the ramifications. I'm simply saying days on market is not going to be the barometer that it once was. That's my expectation, at least for a year to 2 years as this shakes out. And we realize that, say, for example, a seller who's unwilling to offer any compensation to a buyer's agent, that's just going to take longer to sell. Not because an agent is steering a client away from it, but because a buyer is not willing to compensate their representative fairly. And so that buyers in the marketplace may be going through several agents to find an agent willing to write an offer on a property for a flat fee of $1,000 or $500 or $200 or $10,000, whatever they decide on. But because of that change, we can't assume that days on market is because the property is not priced correctly. That's all I have for today. It's always a dynamic world in real estate, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you. And just so you understand, out there in YouTube world, for now, I am happy to have a 30 to 60-minute conversation to you, during which I am not going to charge you for my services. However, at the end of that conversation, if you are a seller, we're going to schedule time for me to see the property and then determine how we're going to work together, if we're going to work together, and what it's going to cost you as the seller to hire me to do the job of selling your house. And then if you're a buyer, we're going to talk about how I'm going to get paid and what my rates are. And some of that is going to be standardized and some of it is going to be individualized based on what your needs are and what I'm doing for you. So, first hour free. After that, just keep in mind, I, like every other real estate agent, offer a product, and we have our expenses and want to make some money. Like, it's a business, right? I have my insurance, I have my mortgage, I have my car, I have all that stuff that you have. And in the old system, we were able to average costs. And in the new system, we're probably not going to be able to do that. So have a great day.